Hey there, Philos here. This is going to be an update to the Unhallowed Essence Discipline Damage Calculator. There's a link to the spreadsheet in the description down below. And in order to edit the numbers here and interact with the spreadsheet, first you're going to have to log into Gmail, and then you can go over here to File, click Make a Copy, copy the document, OK, and then you'll be able to manipulate the copy, not the original. Just as it says here, click File, make a copy to edit the numbers. So now that you have access to the spreadsheet, you should be able to figure out the best reroll for damage from Unhallowed Essence. The spreadsheet combined with the damage range reroll calculator, which I have linked here, these two things combined are going to tell you exactly what the preferred reroll is going to be to maximize your damage with Unhallowed. Now I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about the damage modifiers and the whole situation, and I'm going to give some examples of some rerolls for those that are unfamiliar with the situation. Damage modifiers in Diablo are divided into categories, and depending on the category is going to determine whether they multiply together or they just add together. And the modifier in question here is the discipline from the Unhallowed, which is an independent modifier, but it is additive with itself. And what this means is basically it's pretty simple. Once you have 3080 damage increase from discipline and you gain 1 point of discipline, you go to 3120 increase. So the difference between 3080 and 3120 is only about 1%. So we can put in here 77, and if we were adding one discipline, you can see 1.26. The less discipline you have, the more potent each point of discipline is going to be. At the low end, it's going to be 1.25, and then here at the high end, you can see from 85, if we add 1.14. So around a 1% increase per point of discipline, a little bit more depending on how much you have exactly. So now we're going to look at a couple examples so you can get the idea if you're completely unfamiliar with the whole situation. Walk you through a couple examples to serve as a reference, and you can kind of carry the same strategy over to your items. So here we have a Yangtze curve. It's already been rerolled for the discipline, but for the sake of the example, we're going to assume that it had 9 discipline. Okay? So at this point, you go to the spreadsheet, you look at the damage reroll calculator link, and you enter your information from the weapon onto here. So we select bow, click ancient, damage, range 1535 to 1851, percent damage is 8, and then that's what we have. So 3284.1 is what we have here, and we can see rerolling the base damage would bring it to 3.37, and the percent damage would be 3.34. So not much of a difference there on those two. And at this point, we want to compare those rolls to what we have and see what percent increase do we get from rerolling the base damage, since it's better than the damage percent. So you take the larger number divided by the smaller number, 370 divided by 3284. It's 2.6% increase. It's one, you just move the decimal 2 places, 2.6%. Now, like I said, the assumption was that we had 9 discipline on the weapon. So, just remember 2.6 is the effective increase you would get from rerolling the damage. And then if we look at a spreadsheet and we assume that we have 9 on it, that means we're missing 3 discipline, which means we have 83, and we're looking at gaining 3. And there is where we have 3.5%. Obviously 3.5% is larger than 2.6%, so in this case, the best reroll would be to go from 9 to 12 discipline. And that's actually what happened with this weapon. It landed 9 discipline, I had the option, and I rerolled to get those 3 points of discipline. It's the weapon. Now let's look at a quiver. Here we have Dead Man's Legacy, example quiver, and I have already rerolled for cooldown. Let's, for the sake of the example, pretend that it has, we can go with, let's pretend it has 9 discipline here. Because the reason I'm doing this is because depending on the example, it can be so close that it really doesn't make much of a difference. So I want the difference to be enough to where it's a clear decision. There will be times when you do the math and it ends up so close that it won't really make a big difference. We have 9.5 crit chance and 9 discipline. So we're looking at, we can either gain half a crit chance or 3 discipline. And depending on how much crit chance and crit damage you have, crit chance, usually 1% crit chance is about 2% effective increase. So half a crit chance is about 1% increase. And 9 discipline to 12, we already know, is 3.5. So 3.5 is going to be more than 1, so you're going to take the discipline in that example. Now for the chest piece, this one again, let's assume that we have 10, let's just say we have 10 discipline and 550 dexterity. So we have the lowest dexterity roll, and we're missing 2 discipline. Now, the value of the dexterity also depends on how much dexterity you have, so it's kind of like the Unhallowed damage increase. It's a multiplier on its own, but it's additive with itself. So once you have 10,000 dexterity, the next 1,000 dexterity is only a 10% increase. And you can carry that over, so you know 100 dexterity is about a 1% increase. And that is assuming you have about 10,000 main stat. With Caldesons and High Paragon, usually you're going to end up around 15,000 primary stat, which reduces the effectiveness of that dexterity in half. So 100 dexterity is only 0.5% effective increase. So here, it's pretty clear if you don't have perfect discipline on your cloak, you're going to want to roll for that in terms of damage. And this one I rerolled for vitality. I think that landed something like armor, so I wanted to switch it over. And at that point, you're deciding toughness versus damage. It's not obvious. You have to kind of decide where you want to go with that. Generally, in terms of damage on the cloak, rerolling the discipline is always going to be the most. There's no way you're going to reroll a cloak to gain more damage than rerolling discipline. So there you go. I hope that helps you guys kind of figure out on your own what to reroll, how to figure out what the best reroll is and all that. And as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.